someone to patch you up.
Of course.
Let me
3 of
patch the
those should have
wounds.
hit you. Did any of them hit you?
I've taken no damage.
Is Battlefield 1 worth it? That is the question I'm asking today. What's going on, guys? New here, and for some people, Battlefield 1, quite honestly, was never worth it. For me, that was not the case. I got this game in December of 2016, that's the Christmas after it was released, and I never looked back. I had a lot of fun with this game. But the question of worth is always at least somewhat linked to the price of the game. Now, if you're playing on PC, the base game costs $25.99, regular price, and the full DLC version of the game, plus a few battle packs and goodies, that'll run you $51.99. If you act fast, they are currently on sale on the Origin store with the base game $6 and the full DLC version $12. Obviously, when you're talking about the worth, now is the time to buy. There may be better deals in the future. When I got the game, it was $6 for the base game, and then sometime later, the premium membership was given away for free. So it might be worth picking up the base game and seeing if you want to risk it, if they will give away the premium at some point in the future, or you might just want to pay the full $12 and make sure you have all the DLC right now. Once you get the game, you will find that there are still servers, although Battlefield 1 servers are not as active as either Battlefield 5 or Battlefield 4. So if you're looking for a highly populated game in the Battlefield franchise, this is not the one for you. I would recommend, if you're looking for a full DLC version of the game, a lot of maps, a lot of guns, a lot of unlocks, go with Battlefield 4. If you want to stay up on the current game, it is getting a lot of content coming to it. It is still in live service. It hasn't had all of its DLC dropped yet. Battlefield 5 is on a good track at the moment. Both of those games actually are still on sale. Battlefield 4 is $5 and Battlefield 5 I believe is currently $23. So those are pretty decent prices, and for Battlefield 5 you're not likely to find something better for a while. Now for those who aren't familiar with me and my story, Battlefield 1 was my entry into the Battlefield franchise, and for that reason it will always have a special little place in my heart. It's the game that got me to fall in love with gaming again. It got me into first-person shooters, and it got me into online multiplayer. Because of this game, I was able to go back to some incredible Battlefield titles, Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4, and it's also gotten me to go on with the future titles of the franchise, Battlefield 5 being the current one, and I'm excitedly looking forward to the new content for that and what comes beyond. As I said, I got this game in December. I got the full premium pass, and I felt like I completely got my money's worth for this game. But looking back on it, when we're talking about if this game is worth it, it's now an older Battlefield game. Is it still worth it, or is there a better Battlefield game? And that's not really something that I can answer for you. That is an individual question. Likewise, I can't tell you with the price points whether or not it is worth it for you. You need to be the one to make that decision. All I can do is give you some information about the game. Now, I mentioned that the game started off with a high player base, but a number of players left. The reason for that being there was obviously a number of off-putting features, some of which included standard bullet deviation, the suppression mechanic that was added for this game, the generally smaller maps, and more casual gameplay style. Now, if we dig deeper into some of these, the standard bullet deviation, if you're not familiar with it, it was, in my opinion, a pretty cool concept, but it just didn't really work in a first-person shooter. What standard bullet deviation is you have your point of aim, and every shot has a certain randomness to it, where it may or may not actually land on the target that you're aiming at. The idea behind this was the period rifles used in this game were not reliable, they were not accurate. So the standard bullet deviation was added to try and mimic that, but what happened is players who are used to a 3-hit kill weapon, and you do develop a muscle memory, 3 shots on target and then move to the next one, they got frustrated by the fact that the standard bullet deviation would mean that one of the shots would miss, they would move on to the next target without thinking, just muscle memory, and then all of a sudden they've now hit 2 targets who are aware of them, 2 targets who are alive, and are now turning to fire back at them, when they feel like they should have got the kill because their aim was on and it was just a mechanic of the game that got them killed. The suppression mechanic for this game I know Battlefield 4 has a suppression mechanic. I don't think it works in exactly the same way. In Battlefield 1, when you're suppressed, your shots will not be accurate whatsoever. This, I can't speak for the developers. I think this was added to help deal with the Scout class, or Recon if you're familiar with other Battlefield titles. A player who was firing around another player could suppress them, and it would make it almost impossible for that player to land any return fire shots. They would have to run for cover. This was a generally frustrating mechanic, especially due to its inconsistency. It often seemed like you could shoot 20 bullets all around the enemy, and they would turn and one-tap you, not suppressed whatsoever. On the other hand, you could get shot at twice by a handgun at hundreds of meters away and be fully suppressed, unable to fire back. The generally smaller maps, I think, put off a lot of players who would hope for a more Battlefield 4 style game, where there were a ton of vehicles, including transport vehicles, to take you from objective to objective. And we just simply didn't get that in Battlefield 1, which makes sense. It was World War I. Now, there are some transport vehicles, but the maps are generally fairly small. It's mostly infantry combat, even though there are tanks. The game never really feels like it forces you to play in a vehicle in order to get around the map. And by the more casual gameplay style, what I mean by that is there were certain mechanics added to this game, like the sweet spot mechanic, which means when you were in the sweet spot, or the ideal range for a particular sniper rifle, any torso shot would be a one-hit kill. You no longer had to line up a headshot. This had a result in lowering the skill cap for this game. It meant that more people could one-hit kill with a sniper rifle. This was, in many people's opinion, tailored to players who were new to the franchise or new to first-person shooters in general, who would get frustrated with an inability to kill. For those familiar with Battlefield 4, if your tank got damaged, you had to get out and use your repair tool in order to fix it. It was a high-risk, high-reward kind of scenario. You would come out with a fully repaired tank, but you were easy to kill while you were in the actual act of repairing. In Battlefield 1, you're able to self-repair from within the tank. You never have to expose yourself to enemy fire. Not only that, but a number of their tanks had a quick repair option, which would gain your vehicle, whichever you happen to be using, 20 to 30 health. I can't remember exactly how much it was, but a significant portion of health. It would make you mobile again if you would drop the track, and it basically allowed you to get out of the situation that you got yourself in, repair, and then return to the battlefield later. Working with your squad definitely made things a lot easier. You had someone to resupply you, had someone to throw you heals, someone to revive you, and while true, those things do help you in Battlefield 1, it seems like it's a lot less necessary. You see a lot of solo players running around as a medic or a support. They can resupply themselves, they can heal, they don't really need anyone else. Add to the mix that a number of the good players who would often run out of ammo before they died. If they had killed an enemy support player, you could pick up their kit, drop yourself ammo, and then pick your old kit back up. Going back to the generally simplified maps, what I mean by that is there was a lack of complexity to the capture areas in a number of situations. There were not as many flanking routes, there wasn't as much verticality. The access areas, they were generally easy to hold for 1 to 2 players on most objectives on most maps. In a lot of cases, one support player prone could hold off an entire squad or more. At the time, I didn't really notice these changes, but going back to other titles, they became apparent. So while these maps aren't necessarily bad, they are simpler compared to previous titles, in my opinion. Moving on to some good features, the immersion in this game is incredible. In my opinion, it is far better than Battlefield 5 and even Battlefield 4. I think that it's probably the best in the franchise, at least of the games that I have played in the franchise, and DICE really knocked out of the park on this one, so kudos to them. This game did have an improved movement system and hitbox over earlier titles, though it is not as good as Battlefield 5 in my opinion, but that makes sense. And despite all of its flaws, including the game is just generally fun, and while it is more casual than other games, there's enough here that it is really enjoyable overall. Even going back to it now, 2.5 years after its launch, almost 3 years actually after its launch, I can still hop into a round, play for a few hours, and have some fun. Play with my squad, get some kills, take some objectives, and just have a good time. So, looping back around to the point at hand, is Battlefield 1 worth it?
Which guy?
Well, as I said earlier, in my opinion, yes, this game is worth it. I think that it was worth the full price that I paid for when I got it, and I think that especially at the current prices, this game is still worth it. But that is just my opinion. You guys will have to decide that for yourself. I've given you the information that I think you need. This game is now almost 3 years post-launch. It has all of its DLC content out. If you do pick up this game for the first time, you're going to have I want to say a lot of stuff to unlock, but honestly, compared to other games, it's not a lot of stuff to unlock. If you're looking for a more advanced progression system, if you're looking for a game you can play where you will unlock stuff almost every round that you play, even after you've invested a year or two into this game isn't really the title for you. This game is good, in my opinion, for some casual fun, throw it on for a few hours, not really to invest it in your rank or kill-death ratio, but you just want to blow off some steam, shoot some people, blow some stuff up. I think that if your enjoyment is more linked to your progression within the game, you'd be better served playing a game like Battlefield 3 or 4. So if it's worth it is up to you. It depends what you're looking for in a game. It depends what you're willing to pay for that experience in a game. Hopefully this has been helpful for you guys, and I will see you next time.
We have lost objective Edward.
So many shots to that guy's head.